Reddit asks, human resources employees, what are your best HR nightmare stories? I'm on the HR team that supports a wide variety of US cities for our company, including our colorful Florida locations. This is the best story I heard. We had some woman trying to avoid doing work by sitting out in her car in the parking lot. While she was hiding out there, she needed to use the restroom. Well, instead of going back inside or doing literally anything else, she decides to pee out her car window. Even though I'm also a woman, I was impressed and disgusted by the physics behind this feat. She had stuck her bare ass outside the window and just went for it. Unbeknownst to her, her male co-worker had arrived at work late due to an appointment. He drove past to find a parking spot as this was happening and got full view. He then reported the incident to us. One of our HR people had to investigate this, and sure enough, parking lot cameras could corroborate his story. Our HR person confronted the woman. Her response, well, how did he know it was me? It could have been anyone. We thought, okay, fair enough. The cameras aren't CSI grade zoom, so we only saw the ass part. It was harder to completely identify the face. So we went back to the male peer and asked how he knew it was her. His response, oh, it was definitely her. The face tattoos are pretty recognizable. We definitely don't get paid enough for this. Edit. For you investigative sleuths out there, our cameras are not as amazing as you think they are. It's a parking lot, not the White House. The one camera that caught the event didn't have hyper zoom on the license plate. That's why we have a witness. One place I used to work, one of the upper management guys who was in charge of the warehouse would hop on the forklifts and do donuts. He had colon cancer and was always having surgeries to remove another section of colon. So he had a colostomy bag. He would squeeze air out of his colostomy bag. While he was doing donuts on the forklifts, it would waft this god awful stench everywhere. Everyone thought it was hilarious and would immediately run outside for a smoke break until the scent dissipated. The smell was bad enough it made a coworker puke. Also had another manager there eat 10 sacks of White Castle sliders for lunch. He ate the last 10 sack on the toilet. I have no idea how he could eat with the sounds and stenches he was emitting from his other end. It sounded like someone trying to drown Donald Duck in a puddle while tooting a tuba. No one went into that bat H room for the rest of the day. Where the hell do you work, OMG? I had one employee submit a form to increase her own salary. She also forged her manager's signature. Like, for real. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Honestly, she probably would have gotten away with it if she didn't hand deliver it herself. That was the odd part. Some audits, etc. would have caught it soon enough, but shoot. I never said I thought she was smart. My friend was doing hiring for a staffing agency during college. A guy who we went to high school came in looking for a job. He told the candidate that he had 2 jobs. One paid $10 an hour and the other paid $11. The only thing was that the $11 an hour job requires a drug test, and if you fail the drug test you can't get either. He said that he wanted the $11 an hour job. Now we knew him well enough to know that he liked smoking. So my friend reiterated the drug test fail rule. Dude said he was good on Friday to take the test Monday. Come Monday he took the drug test, pissed hot for weed, cocaine, amphetamines, and some other shit that gets out of your system in about 48 hours. Obviously, he tried to score the highest on the drug test. Not in HR, but my previous senior manager was renowned for sleeping with colleagues. He was married with kids. Before I started there, I remember seeing a huge banner plastered across a footbridge that everyone leaving work by car had to drive under to get to the motorway. The sign said, Joe Blogs, not actual name, cheating bastard. Turns out he was cheating on his wife with a team leader from another department and was cheating on his mistress with another team leader from yet another department. Both the team leaders found out about each other and had a massive fight in the reception of the building. By the time I started at the company, both of the team leaders were no longer working there. I work in recruitment, so not exactly HR. A guy had applied for a job that required a DBS check, police check. He filled the DBS and all his other checks flew through. The DBS came back as he had committed a crime in the past. Now and only the guy who will be applicant's manager and a senior in our department can see the DBS result. He called the department and happy the job had been withdrawn. He then sent a long email in begging for another chance. He said when he was 17 he beat 2 women up then threatened the cops with a gun. We are in the UK, so guns are pretty rare, especially in the 1970s. He went in to detail about the attempted rape. This dude wanted a job in a hospital. It's a no, mate. Once upon a time I was an HR manager. This is my worst story. Once I had a dude who looked great on paper for a mid-level role at the large non-profit I worked for. We were a houselessness and addiction rehab shelter. Easily the type of resume for our operations depth, which made us all think, oh, this guy looks good. He could be management material someday with these type of credentials. I phone interviewed him and thought, oh yeah, the team's gonna love him. We set up an in-person interview. I wasn't able to sit in on the in-person interview, so the director of that depth and his best/longest standing employee did it. Apparently when the guy first showed up and was asked if he'd like anything to drink, he asked for a bourbon on the rocks. Kidding. And everything went downhill from there. According to the depth director and the other employee, the interview went immediately terrible and the guy kept floating things like, but I bet you're not going to hire me because of blank. They felt like every answer from the guy and every question was meant to be some sort of verbal trap he was laying, so they cut it pretty short. Later, the guy called me back directly. He had my office hash because I had used it to phone interview him and left a VM. He started by saying essentially, thank you for the opportunity, but I really didn't appreciate how you guys clearly didn't want to hire me because I'm a male, I'm too old, I'm a father, I have a chronic medical issue, I was an alcoholic 10+ years ago, I was once homeless, etc. etc. All of these are verbal traps, and I'm 100% sure he was trying to trap us so he could disparage the organization and sue us. I can say definitively that none of these were true. We weren't thinking of any of these things, and we were damn near ready to hire him before the interview had he done as well as he did on paper and in the phone interview. The only reason we didn't hire him was because he was clearly a malicious psychopath, and it was pretty clear he wanted the organization's money, but had no intention of doing any real work, besides about an hour of interviewing, to get it. I had to bring the issue up with our CEO and CFO, and we drafted a very clear statement in return, which I left by voicemail and email. Dear Mr., thank you for the opportunity to interview you. In response to your prior communication, we feel it very important to clarify that we have not yet decided on a final candidate for this role, and as we discussed in both your phone interview and your in-person interview, the only consideration we will make when deciding on a final candidate is whether one's professional qualifications match the needs of this role. Thank you for your time. We will keep you informed on our final decision. Sincerely, F. That guy. Came into work early for a morning shift, work in an industrial lab. Heard noises from the back corner of the office portion of the building, but can't make out what they are because of distortion. Head that way to see what was going on as I was the only one there, so I thought, at 3 AM. See my lab manager fucking the district manager, her boss, while the HR rep for the district is sitting there, enjoying the view. I noped and went to the lab and tried to forget what happened. To be fair, relationships between direct reporters needs to be brought to HR's attention. I just didn't realize a demonstration was also required. Saw a guy blatantly lie in his recruitment form, watching him fill it out in front of me. It was total bollocks. Apparently he was 15th in line to the throne, went to Eton, studied at Oxford, and served in the army for 9 years, after training at Sandhurst. Not bad for a 21-year-old. Who had in fact spent 3 years in a young offenders institute, battling a drug problem. TBF, if he hadn't written 9 years he'd have an average track record for a royal that age. I was sitting in the HR office with one of the members of HR. I was waiting on her to finish a form, so that we could go eat lunch. Suddenly, this guy comes in. He was a young temp employee, and had only been there a week or so, and says he has something he needs to talk about. I start to get up to leave when he blurts out that he doesn't like that fact that there are so many gays and lesbians working in the company. Once he says that I sit right back down. The HR employee asks him to clarify, and he goes on about how his trainer was gay and his team lead is gay and his manager is a lesbian. All true, and he doesn't feel comfortable working around all these gays and lesbians. The HR employee asks him if anyone has ever sexually harassed him, which he says they haven't. She then says, "So you want me to fire these employees, strictly based on their sexual orientation, just so you don't feel uncomfortable?" He says yes, after which she tells him to leave the office. She then calls in his manager and talks with her about it. He ends up quitting by the end of the week. That's all for this video. You made it to the end. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing so you see the next videos. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.